You are listening to Dog Decks Radio, the nation's animal station.
Of all the cruelty our species inflicts on animals, for me personally, bile farming is one of the worst. To pluck an animal from the wild, incarcerate it for its entire life in a tiny cage which does not allow it to move, and to plunge an instrument into its abdomen to milk its bile is wicked beyond belief. I zoomed over to Hong Kong to catch up with Jill Robinson from Animals Asia. It was a difficult conversation, and I'm sorry to say that I shed tears twice during the interview. Please forgive me for that. Once at the misery, and then again at the joy, listening to Jill with her zest and enthusiasm and pure unbridled joy and love as she spoke about the Animals Asia sanctuaries and the lives the rescued bears live after their rescue.
Hello, Jill. It's so lovely to have you with us today to talk about your work with Animals Asia. Thank you so much for agreeing to guest.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Michelle. Lovely to meet you, and I love the name of your show as well.
Oh, thank you. Jill, I obviously talk to an awful lot of people about an awful lot of bad things, and I have to say that I'm struggling very much with bear bile farming. It is the most hideous thing, in my opinion, that anybody could do to another animal. And, you know, I despair at the thought that my species could do that to another. It's so torturous and revolting, isn't it? So I'm probably going to struggle a little bit about this because sometimes I actually weep a bit, I have to say. So you'll have to excuse me if I get emotional, listeners and Jill. So Jill, can you tell us a bit about the bear bile farming, please, just in case anybody hasn't heard about it, but I doubt if that's the case.
Sure, Michelle. And let me say, first of all, you know, I always say the bears are worth all of our tears. Believe you me, we cry bucket loads at Animals Asia, so you're not alone there at all. It's not a very exclusive club. Bear bile farming goes back to the 80s when it was first produced, I suppose, in North Korea, believe it or not. And then it went on to China and Vietnam over the years, where today maybe, you know, over 12,000 bears at least are kept in tiny wire cages and have their bile extracted through various means that's then used in traditional medicine. And that's despite the fact that, you know, it can so easily and cheaply be replaced by herbs and by synthetics. Bears will be kept in the cages for their lifespan, you know, which is anything up to 30 years. Or, of course, you know, they will suffer and die long before that as a result of infection and the physical and psychological abuse that they endure over all those decades. So it's you know, it's something that Animals Asia was actually founded to end. And I maybe should say right from the beginning, we're so very, very proud that, you know, we have an MOU with the Vietnam government now to bring bear bile farming to a total end by 2022. There's about, you know, just over 400 bears left, and, you know, obviously it entails a huge amount of work now. We need to build another sanctuary. We have 2 sanctuaries already in China and Vietnam, rescued over 600 bears, but we need to do so much more to actually bring it to an end in Vietnam. But imagine if we can do that. You know, we've got the final goal. It's the goal for which we were founded in Animals Asia, and if we can do that, of course, we can see that ripple effect in other bear farming countries as well.
Well done. Absolutely fantastic. So how is the bile actually extracted from the bears, Jill, and how often?
In a variety of ways. So in China, through either a metal or a latex catheter that is surgically implanted through the abdomen and into the gallbladder so that bile can be siphoned off, literally extracted, or through something called a free drip method, which is a hole that is created into the abdomen and gallbladder. And of course, it doesn't take too much surgical knowledge to know that if you've got a hole in your abdomen, you've got a perfect vector for bacterial transmission, and that doesn't, you know, account for the years that they're held in cages cages, and all again the physical and the psychological issues that evolve as a result of this horrible practice. In Vietnam, the method is a little different, through anaesthetizing the bear and then using an ultrasound to locate the gallbladder, and then using a 4-inch spinal needle once they found the gallbladder to go into the organ, and then to ensure that they've really reached the bile, they will take the needle out of the sheath and they'll lick it to ensure that they've reached the bitter tasting medicine. And when they reassure that they have, they'll put the needle back, and then they'll use a mechanical pump to pump out the bile. So, and the number of times, it just depends. Sometimes it can be once, twice, or even 3 times a day in China. In Vietnam, it's usually every few weeks, because they believe that the quality of the bile is better the longer it's left, and less extracted.
And it's used in medicine for various ailments, supposedly.
Is, and I think of surprise to your listeners is that bear bile really does work. We've known this over the years, that it's not some quack medicine, even though we'd like it to be, of course.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we don't disparage traditional medicine at all, because there are so many things that, especially, of course, on the herbal side of things, where traditional medicine really does work. And bear bile contains something called ursodeoxycholic acid, or UDCA. And this has been found for decades to be good, even in Western terms, for treating things like gallstones or chronic liver complaints. In traditional medicine terms, red and sore eyes, anything that's inflamed, or high fevers, high temperatures, etc., etc. But as I said at the beginning, it can easily and cheaply be replaced by herbs and by synthetics. You don't need a bear to do it.
Okay. Can we talk about the conditions that the bears are kept in, Jill?
Well, as I said earlier, they are caged because they have to be rendered immobile, to be able to extract their bile and do something that clearly they don't want to happen to their bodies. So they can be in these cages for 3 decades or their entire lifespan, or until they die beforehand because of the infection. So they can often they can be caught in the wild, so they have missing limb. They can have their teeth and their paw tips, take away their defences, make them less dangerous to milk. I'm afraid that just being under these conditions causes them immense stress. So when we've rescued them, we find a lot of things like heart problems, we're finding cancers, we're finding things related to banging their heads against the bars of the cage. So sometimes, this can render them blind. The catalogue, it just goes on and on and on. And, one of our sort of biggest functions, if you like, once we've rescued the bears, is to determine the pathology and understand, what is causing them, the pain and their suffering, and remove that. And then go on the road, of course, to building up their bodies, building up their confidence, and just getting them out into enclosures to allow them to act like bears again for the first time in their lives.
So, of course, when they're in these cages on the farms, they're not ever out of those cages, are they, Jill? Bears are dangerous. And they're not, bears are dangerous, and a very unhappy bear is going to be a very dangerous bear. So they're just trapped in them, aren't they? That's awful, isn't it?
Of course. I mean, they're in a place where they don't want to be, having something they don't want to have happen to them. And, that's one of the biggest challenges for us at Animals Asia after we've rescued them, to sort of try to build up their confidence against their pain, and try to, give them some semblance of life for which they were born.
Okay, and you said that they were taken from the wild, so they're not ever bred for purpose, no?
They are bred.
They are. Oh, my goodness, it gets worse.
They have breeding programs, but in Vietnam we've never found one successful example of a breeding program. So every bear that we've rescued in Vietnam, we can say, has been wild caught.
Oh gosh, I don't know which is worse. Do you?
They're obviously they're not allowed to behave as they would in the wild. They're not even allowed to behave as any functioning mammal would want to behave. So they're both equally as bad as each other.
Yeah, I mean, you're just thinking about being in that cage for, 30 years? That's the lifespan, isn't it? It's basically like us, lying on a bed and never moving at all. and not
Exactly.
being able to engage in anything.
The hard,
Oh my goodness! And the physical punishment of that situation, never mind the emotional context of that situation, is just it's
yeah.
awful. Some of them must die,
Yes,
within that, in that cage, from
they do.
things like blood clots and
Heart disease,
goodness.
cancer, massive pathology, massive issues. And we had a bear called Oliver that had been caged for 30 years of his life, and we had him for 4 springs and 4 summers, and it was just a lovely rescue, but it wasn't enough. We all felt so awful for our own species, what we had done, for that. We felt so ashamed what we'd done to that bear.
I'm finding this so difficult. You'll have to excuse me. I'm not going to be very professional. I know this is going to be a difficult one for me. Do the bears ever try to escape? Probably not. They can't, can they?
We have heard in the past, things happening at some of the bear farms, like escapes, or even, farmers being killed, or even their children being horribly hurt when they've gone too close to a cage. I mean, it does show how absolutely unpredictable and aggressive a bear can be when it's in that sort of,
I'm surprised. I would be.
They're fighting for their life, and it's, as I say, I think, again, just massive kudos to the Vietnam government for agreeing now to end this practice and allow Animals Asia to rescue the remaining bears. I mean, it's a fantastic cause for celebration, and it just really shows, I think, how the government have fully committed now to endorsing the end of bear farming, and as well, seeing a decrease in wildlife exploitation in Vietnam. So it's good news all round.
Yeah, I think that I need to interject as well and say how wonderful Animals Asia is, because this wouldn't be happening without you. So don't be coy. We need to remember how important Animals Asia is, and their absolutely fantastic job that they've done. And of course, you are Animals Asia. I mean, how did you start this? Did you go on holiday and notice what was going on? Tell us your story, Joe.
I've been working for IFOR, the International Fund for Animal Welfare.
Oh,
yeah. They're a fantastic organisation. I loved working for them, and I was here in Asia doing a lot of undercover work in the live animal markets, of Korea and the Philippines and China, and I just got a call from a friend of mine who was a journalist and said he'd come back from one of these notorious bear bar farms, and he just said, you have to go and see it. And my interest was completely piqued, because I'd never, really known what bear farming was all about. And I thought, gosh, there's one right across, just an hour's boat trip away. So I did. I hopped on the ferry with a couple of friends, and we went to explore one of these bear farms as a tourist. We joined as tourists. And because my friend had told me where the bile extraction bears were, we were able to sneak away from the group that was being shown, enthusiastically, the shop and everything, and also the breeding bears that weren't kept in cages. And we snuck away from the group, and we found this awful basement with 32 moon bears caged and with catheter their abdomens, and that was it. It was totally life-changing. And I did have a moment with one of the bears who had her paw through the bars of the cage.
God.
We took her paw, and she didn't hurt me. And it's only years later that I realised the true impact of why that bear didn't hurt me, because we've rescued over 630 bears, and you wouldn't touch a bear's paw on a bear bar farm just because of the sheer strength of the animals and the anxiety that they have. But why she just squeezed my fingers at that point and didn't hurt me, I'll never know. And I never saw her again. And I just want to always thank her so publicly for starting us all on the biggest journey ever, in ending this horrible practice. And I hope she's dead now. I can't bear the fact that she's suffering on a bear bar.
So, just going back to the beginning of that section of the conversation, am I right in assuming that this is a tourist thing? Also,
it
was.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Now it's become, much more sensitive, much more. And, I think that people that farm bears realise that it is causing, a massive amount of suffering to these animals, you know, and it's not something that's celebrated so much, I guess, is the word anymore. And I think, again, this is why Vietnam have come to the realisation that it's not a palatable subject, and because their bile can be so easily replaced, that it's something that they felt it was time to put it in the history books of shame, frankly.
Yeah, that's something that I just can't get my head around at all. You know, whether you care about animals or not, when faced with an animal in a cage with something stuck in its abdomen being milked, how could anybody think that's okay? How could anybody want to go and see that? That I just don't understand at all. It's, you know, it's getting better, isn't it? But you'd have to excuse me. I just find it incredulous.
But I think we've opened our eyes to so many examples of egregious cruelty around the world as well. You know, there's so many examples of vivisection that we can't hold our heads up anymore. When you talk about animals being kept in tiny wire cages, you know, the intensive industry, we could go on and on. You know, I think the virus has made us all wake up to the fact that we have to change. We have to do things differently now, because our unkindness towards animals, our unkind treatment, has led us where we are today. And you know, to quote our new tagline, the only cure is kindness.
So which countries practice bear bile farming, Jill, currently?
Well, we've got China and Vietnam, obviously, and then there are a few bear farms in Laos and in Myanmar as well, and South Korea. But it seems that it's phasing out, you know, in several of these countries now. And there's a lot of NGOs working very collaboratively with the governments, as we are in Vietnam especially. And I think there is hope for the future that these sort of practices will die out, you know, ultimately. There's a lot of, you know, despite all the horrors that are going on, there really is some good news stories for animals out there, especially here in Asia, where things can happen pretty fast. And I think many of your viewers, you know, or your listeners will have heard that, you know, even in China, dog and cat consumption, the sale of dogs and cats is now illegal, you know.
We are evolving. All that hard work is actually paying off. It doesn't just happen overnight. This is decades of hard graft from, you know, people like Animals Asia and, you know, other organisations around the world. Now, these products that are made from the bile, obviously they're consumed domestically. Are any of them produced for the international market? Do you know that?
No, you wouldn't. They are literally for domestic markets only. So if you see bear bile for sale, for example, in the UK, that product will be an illegal product.
Okie dokie. That's good news. Now, when you rescue the bears, how does that come about? Are you offered the bears, or do you have to buy the bears? Are you given the bears? How does it happen? Can you tell us?
Yeah, let me take just Vietnam as an example, because again, that's a good news story. So we're usually contacted by the government who have been talking with their farmers about giving up their bears. And, you know, it's usually very streamlined approach. It's with full collaboration, as I said, with the local authorities that we're able to go in and rescue the bears. It can happen, you know, either the bears could be brought to us, but generally now we're going to the bear bile farms. Our vet team and our bear team, amazing teams, are going there and just, you know, assessing when they get on site, because no matter how much information we glean beforehand, you always find that when you're actually on site at the bear farms, everything changes. Nothing is as you believed it would be or were told it would be. You know, you've got to find out what the farmer was feeding the bear, when the last time he anaesthetised the bear, what sort of cage that animal is being kept in, what sort of health problems the bear has. So many things we have to establish. And then when we get there, we have to double up and establish it again. And first of all, you know, look at the integrity of the cage to see if it's safe for our team to be working around. And then obviously look at the condition of the bear and see if we can safely move the bear consciously from the current bear cage into our recovery cage. And then back to the sanctuary. So it's a huge process, I have to say. But because, you know, I have to say we've been doing it for many years, and, you know, we have the most incredibly professional teams in both countries of China and Vietnam who do it seamlessly. And I'm going to touch wood saying that, because you can never be too careful. But
So those bears must find all this very, very confusing. They've spent all this time with this human or these humans who have treated them in such a terrible, terrible manner. And then Jill comes along with her crew, and there's all this stuff happening, and they're moved somewhere else, and they feel grass under their paws and the wind on their fur. And it must be such a strange experience for them. How do they cope with it?
Oh, it's wonderful. And don't please single me out. I honestly cannot have that happening. We've got, multiple.
I knew you were going to do that.
In both countries. Honestly, I could fill a book with the stories of these guys, how beautifully well they know bears. They just do, and they recognise even, on the rescue, whether the bears would, what their favourite sort of food is becoming, how we can coax them out of those awful cages and into our recovery cages. Is it going to be honey? Is it going to be fruit? Heidi, our bear and vet team director in Vietnam, she just, nothing was working, and she went water, and she put a hose pipe, and one of the bears just followed the water.
Oh, that's so brave, isn't it, for the bears to actually do that, because they don't know anything else, do they, Jill?
No, and it's such a good point that you raised, Michelle, because the presence of a human being, causes them stress, because things happen to them, and a stranger as well. And again, it just takes a lot of patience, to get them again back into the recovery cages and home to our sanctuary. And even then, it's not home and dry, because they've got to go through things like health checks and just settling in a quarantine for 45 days, all the while being established, what the physical and psychological problems are, and then just getting proper nutrition into them, getting all their health problems sorted out, and then start integrating them with other bears. And that doesn't always come easily as well, because to have a bear that's been solitary in a cage and then to start integrate with another bear, it's like, what is going on?
I mean, even very, very basic things like, I touched on, the feel of different textures and materials on their paws as they're walking, using their hands, using their paws rather, to, hold things, to eat. I mean, that's an awful lot for them to learn, isn't it? It must be incredibly...
It's brilliant you've said that, because you're absolutely right. Even standing on grass, sometimes we've seen bears hesitate and then put their
they don't know what it is.
Don't know what it is. And so, even that, we've got multiple substrates all around the enclosures, that they have to acclimatise to and start recognising their lives as bears, in wood piles and sawdust and rocks and just everything, swimming pools, things that climbing frames that they would never have had on the farms at all. And now suddenly this whole smorgasbord of new experiences is just, You're going
to set me off again now. I don't like talking to you. I cry because it's so miserable, and then I cry because I'm so happy. Sorry, listeners, I'm a mess. So let's talk about the sanctuaries, because you've obviously touched a little bit on what you're able to provide them. So how many sanctuaries do you have?
We have two. We have one in Sichuan province in Chengdu in China, and then one in Tam Dao National Park in Vietnam near Hanoi. And we've also taken over an ex-bear bar farm in Nanning province in China as well. So we've got 107 bears there waiting to come back to Chengdu. So, the sanctuaries, as someone said, it was food for the soul when they came along, and I can't put that any differently. They're beautiful, beautiful places we're just so proud of them. When the bears come bouncing out of their dens every morning, they don't know what is out there. They've got football field-sized enclosures, and they have no idea has been laid out for them. All the food is rotated, all their toys are rotated. It's just a whole new experience each and every day.
Yeah, they get hammocks to swing in and all sorts of things, don't they? I've seen some. You've very kindly sent me over some really fabulous pictures, which I'll share with listeners in the newsletter. And it's amazing watching them playing with things and being bears. It's amazing.
Their senses of, touch and sound and smell and taste, everything screaming when they come out of those dens, because everything is so novel and intriguing for them. And it's just lovely to see them, you know, whether they're old or they're young, you know, they all behave differently. We always laugh that the real oldies that we've got, especially in China, they all play in slow motion. And it's just so sweet to see them, you know, these old dodders. And yet, you know, and especially in Vietnam, we've got a younger population. They just play like teenagers. They're absolute hooligans. You know, and it's wonderful to be part of that journey for those bears, and to have that satisfaction that they're never going to be hurt and suffering again.
Thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you so much. How many bears do you have? How many bears have you saved, and how many bears are with you presently?
Oh goodness, we've rescued over
Roughly.
630 bears. We've got about 400 bears now on board.
Wow.
So yeah, and now we've got another over 428 bears to rescue now to close the industry in Vietnam. So it's a big job on our hands, but we are so excited about this, you know, because it really does again bring us to our final goal for which we were founded. And you know, not many charities can say that, I have to say, you know. And gosh, and just having talked to you about dog and cat as well, that was one of our other founding goals, to end dog and cat consumption in China. So it's almost unbelievable that I'm talking to you like this. It's made me a very old lady, and lots of our team members, because, you know, we have people that stay with us for many years in the foundation, and it's just realised everybody's dream, everybody's goal, and, you know, yeah, purpose.
Phenomenal achievement, Jill, from everybody. Absolutely phenomenal.
No, we're not
Totally.
sitting on our shell. Thank you. We still have a big job to do, but, you know, it's given everyone, I think, that incentive, you know, to do more now.
Was there ever a time where things felt so desperate that you kind of didn't want to give up, I don't suppose, but wondered if you would ever achieve anything? Was there ever a time like that?
Yeah, there's lots of peaks and troughs. There always has been, you know, over these last, actually it's like, you know, over 30 years now that I've been working in the field. And you do, you know, there were years where things were a little bit stagnant, and you think, oh, is this ever going to end? Are we ever, you know, and then suddenly things pick up and you find successes along the way. And, you know, and I think the most critical thing is the fact that we've been able to, we live here, we work from the inside out. The most important thing, to be working, you know, with colleagues in the Chinese and Vietnamese community, and having programs on site that upskill our staff, that promote our staff, that give, you know, empower our staff, and have our teams, you know, our local teams leading a lot of these programs as well. And that's so essential. You can't point a finger from outside and say you shouldn't be farming bears, you shouldn't be eating dogs.
I agree, totally.
And that's, I think, satisfying part, and that lifts us on the down days that we inevitably have, as well, as you ask.
And also, you know, the bears keep you going, don't they?
Gosh,
Through all those decades, the bears keep you going.
Totally, they really do. They really do. One of my favourite stories is, you know, if I'm a bit down on site, I'll just grab a walkie-talkie and I'll say to everyone, can you just give me an hour? I've just got a meeting with Jasper. And I mean, Jasper passed away several years ago, so I always used to say that about him. But, you know, I'd say it about Ozzy now, or Nicole in Vietnam. I say, I've just got a meeting with these guys. And that's the bears, it's not the people. And it's just, you know, sitting with them, just sitting on the floor by the perimeter fence and just watching them as they go about their bear business. And there's nothing like it to just reconnect your soul and your heart and make you realise why we're doing what we're doing.
You know, I think it's amazing, don't you, that these animals that are very powerful beasts have been so horribly abused. I honestly cannot think of any abuse that you could do to an animal that's pretty much worse than what they've endured at that length of time. And they forgive. We can learn so much from them, can't we, Jill? There they are with you, sitting in the moment, just enjoying life. And trusting. I think it's amazing, don't you?
From day one, the forgiveness, you've hit on the absolute adjective of all adjectives for those bears. How they can do that. We wouldn't be so forgiving if it was us. We wouldn't.
No, we can learn so much from them. I mean, I've got street dogs, and sorry, listeners, you've heard this many times, but Jill hasn't. Bella was, the puppy machine. She was battered. She was branded. She comes from Eastern Europe. She was whipped with barbed wire. She's scarred. I mean, she's just had a horrible, horrible start in life. She came to us when she was 2, and she was so terrified that if a hand went near her to stroke her, she would just cower and wet herself. She was absolutely petrified. Now, it only took her 6 months to forget everything. We still have to be careful putting things over her head and so on and so forth. But, she is a completely different dog. It's just that trust, isn't it?
Well done. Well done you for doing. I mean, that's another soul. You almost tick it off, don't you? It's that's another life saved, and you just have to do that. Look at them as individuals.
Yeah. I saw her. In fact, Peter was responsible for her coming to us. He tweeted something, and I went looking, and I saw her, and I was like, oh my goodness, she just had puppies, and she was so afraid. And I said to my husband, she has to come, and he said, really? Yeah, we've got to have her. We've just got to. And so she did. And we've not looked back. She's absolutely adorable, and she totally loves her daddy. He has to take her to work with him. She's never left alone, ever. She goes out and she's like, no, where are you going? You'll never come back again. And he said, oh, we can't have that. So he actually bought a business that he could take, so he could take her to work with him.
How amazing. What a lovely story. And lucky you as well.
Oh, you get so much from them, don't you? You get so much from them. Where can listeners find you on the internet? Obviously, you've got your main website and then your socials. So can we just zip through those?
Oh, please, just animalsasia.org website, and of course Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, everything. Please go online and have a look. We need your help more than ever now, because the campaign that we're launching next year, of course, to end bear farming in Vietnam is our biggest yet. It's a huge challenge to do, and it's going to cost millions and millions of US dollars to do it. And we've just got to dream big and think that, in this awful climate of coronavirus, and where so many people are suffering, we've just got to dust ourselves down and think how we can do this, not how we can't do it. So please get behind us and help us if you can. And if you want to see an end to bear farming, you're supporting the right group. What I love about this kindness campaign, because it's brought everyone together into thinking, how can we be kind, not just to animals but to people as well. And we start to do, in our team, we start to do random acts of kindness. So if you see a street sleeper, we just buy them a vegan sausage roll or something. You see someone lugging something really heavy. We've got little old ladies here in their 90s that collect all the recycled cans and cardboard boxes and things, and they're running along with trolleys heavier than they are, and as I say, they literally are in their 90s. These people will go into your local whatever, supermarket, and just go and buy them a cold drink, things like that. Gosh, it makes you feel good to do stuff like that. It just does, and you see this totally surprised face, and then they get it. They think, oh my gosh, someone's just been kind to me. And that those ripples of kindness spread. And it would be so nice to, to be part of that movement in a world where kindness is so much needed.
I was just going to say that, we don't live in a very kind place at all, do we? Especially with social media, people don't always think before they speak, I find, and it can be quite damaging, can't it? Some of the verbal communications between humans, human to human, never mind animals. So yeah, I'm totally behind that.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to say thank you so much for talking to us, for putting up with me crying twice through the interview. I'm so sorry about that, but I knew that I would. And hopefully, we can get together again and have a chat about the dogs, because that's pretty important too. And I'm going to say personally, thank you so much for everything that you've done for bears.
Thank you. Look, it's the first time we've met, but it's an absolute pleasure. Michelle, I've loved talking with you. You have a great sense of humour as well. And as I say, I'm going to mention it, I love your pink hair as well.
I change it regularly. It could probably be blue next time I see you. I'll have no hair left. My mother's always telling me off for it.
What you do and championing all these causes everywhere. I know you work with a great deal of organisations, so thank you from all of us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Totally. Totally. So good luck in your venture. You know, wish you every success, and yeah, you've got a great voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Join the Kibble Club today. Buy a bag, save a life. Just 2 pounds.